Hey, welcome back. Today we're diving into a quiet revolution that's totally reshaping the software game. And it's not about the usual stuff, venture capital, billion-dollar dreams. No, this is about building small, incredibly profitable empires, sometimes with a team of just one. Let me just ask you this. What if you could build $1 million software company all by yourself? I know, it sounds a little crazy, right? But this isn't some fantasy. It is the reality for a whole new wave of founders building these things called micro SaaS businesses. For decades, the startup playbook was pretty straightforward. Raise a ton of VC money, grow at all costs, and chase that unicorn dream. But a completely different path has opened up. The micro SaaS model just flips that whole script. We're talking bootstrapping, focusing on profit from day one, and building a real, sustainable, and sellable business with a tiny team. It is a fundamentally different ballgame. Okay, so what are these things really? Let's break it down, because this is way more than just a passing trend. It's a whole new ecosystem with its own rules for winning. So at its very core, a micro SaaS is all about laser focus. It's a software business that targets a super specific niche. So instead of trying to build a CRM for everyone, think more like a CRM just for locksmiths. The ambition isn't world domination. It's about building an incredibly profitable, manageable, and valuable business in a small pond. And these businesses, they all pretty much share the same DNA. They are incredibly lean, often run by just 1 to 5 people. They're bootstrapped, which means the founders keep 100% of the company. They aim to totally dominate their little niche. And here's the kicker. The goal is something like $10,000 to $100,000 in monthly recurring revenue. Now, that's life-changing money for a founder, but it's small enough to fly completely under the radar of the big competitors. You're probably sitting there asking, okay, but why is this happening now? Well, it's because a solo founder today has access to some serious superpowers, things that were basically science fiction just a decade ago. It really all comes down to 3 massive forces hitting at the exact same time. First, you've got AI coding assistants that have just supercharged development. Second, there's the API economy, which lets you basically rent all the complicated stuff like payment systems instead of building it from scratch. And finally, marketplaces like Acquire.com have popped up, creating a clear, accessible path for founders to actually sell their business for a life-changing exit. And this quote just nails it perfectly. The ability to snap together these pre-built Lego blocks of technology is the real game changer here. It means you can go from just an idea in your head to a fully functioning product, not in months, but in weeks. Okay, enough with the theory. Let's get to the really fun part. We're going to look at some real-world examples, the titans of the tiny, and see exactly how they built these incredible little software empires. First up, let's talk about Scraping Bee. When these guys were acquired in 2024, they were pulling in around $5 million in annual revenue. $5 million! For a business run by a tiny team, that is just staggering. So what was their secret? Well, they didn't build some flashy consumer app. Instead, they tackled a really complex, kind of unsexy problem for other developers, making web scraping work without all the headaches. And their marketing was genius. They just wrote incredibly detailed technical guides that their target customers would find through Google, bringing them a constant stream of perfect leads for free. Next, we've got Card, which is estimated to be doing over $2 million a year. And the most incredible part about it, it was built and is run by a single founder, one person. Card's strategy is fascinating because it's so counterintuitive. While all its competitors were piling on more and more features, Card went the other way. They created a monopoly on simplicity. By focusing only on one-page websites, it built this good enough moat. If you just need a simple, beautiful site fast, why would you use anything else? And then there's Banner Bear, another powerhouse, pulling in over $600,000 a year with an API that helps businesses automate creating images and banners. Banner Bear's founder really leaned into a marketing approach that's become a huge part of this community, building in public. He shared everything on social media, his revenue numbers, the setbacks, the wins, and this radical transparency created this incredibly powerful bond with his audience. People weren't just customers, they were fans rooting for him to succeed. Okay, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, AI. It's lowered the barrier to entry so much, which is great, but it's also created a ton of these really simple wrapper apps that don't have any long-term value. So how do you build something that actually lasts? The source material has this fantastic analogy for this.
You've got supernovas. Those are the generic AI wrappers that blow up with hype, but then burn out super fast. Customers churn like crazy. The goal is to be a shooting star, a solution that targets a really specific niche, solves a real problem, and has steady, sustainable growth. So the crucial thing is to move from building a simple wrapper to building a workflow. A wrapper is just a pretty face on an AI model. A workflow, on the other hand, integrates deeply into the tools your customers already use every single day, like Excel or WhatsApp, and it automates an entire process for them. That creates a really sticky product that's incredibly hard to replace. Ultimately, this is the key. The defensibility, your moat, isn't the AI model itself. That's a commodity anyone can access. The real moat is the connective tissue you build, the bridge between the raw intelligence of the AI and the specific, messy, real-world context of your user. That's where all the value is.
So how does all this actually translate into a financial outcome? Well, these small empires can lead to some seriously big exits. The definition of success here might be different from the traditional startup path, but believe me, the rewards are just as real. I mean, just look at these numbers. The economics are incredible. You're talking about gross margins between 80 and 90%. Because you're bootstrapped, you keep 100% control. And you're doing all of this with a tiny team. It is a model built for profitability and for freedom. And here's the ultimate payoff. When it's time to sell, a profitable micro SaaS typically goes for 3.5 to 5 times its annual profit. So let's put that in perspective. A business making $200,000 a year in profit, which is very achievable for one person, could mean a nearly $1 million exit. That is a clear, repeatable path to a life-changing outcome. And for anyone out there who's getting inspired to build one of these, here's basically the buyer's playbook. On platforms like acquire.com, they're looking for 4 main things. Proven profitability, that's number 1. Low customer churn, under 5% a month is great. They want to see you've been around for at least a couple of years to show you're stable. And finally, a standard tech stack so it's easy for a new owner to maintain. Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative question. In an era that's completely dominated by these AI giants, could it be that the real future of innovation is actually small? It's a powerful idea to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.